detecting more. But fortunately, we also have better technologies and better treatment plans, so a lot of women are surviving their breast cancer. 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. 90% of the earliest stages are curable. So this is what this presentation is about, is catching this in an early stage. Okay. So here's the risk factors: being female, being white women more than African American. However, African American women are more likely to die from it. Something I'm very passionate about, something I speak a lot to. I speak to a lot of African American women because they tend to have a more aggressive type. They tend to have a triple negative type, which is more aggressive, harder to treat. Aging. The younger you're diagnosed, the more aggressive the type. They don't know why. They just know that if you're younger, it's more aggressive. Dense breast tissues, and not having children until later in her life. So dense breast tissues is a secret, because this is mostly what my presentation is about. I had dense breast tissues, so didn't think I was going to be at risk for breast cancer. You have little boobs, who thinks you're going to have breast cancer? Strong family history. 5 to 10% are thought to be hereditary, so which means what Megan said, which was the BRCA gene. So risk factors that decrease. So the older you are, when you have your first menstrual period, that's a factor that decreases the risk. Starting menopause at an earlier age, giving birth to more children and being younger at the birth of your first child, and breastfeeding your children. Getting regular exercise and maintaining a healthy weight. Those are all factors that you can somewhat control. Well, you can't control menopause, but you can pretty much control. Factors that increase: long-term use of hormone replacement therapy. So be careful of those birth controls that promise that you won't get a period. Not always the best thing. If you don't get a period, doesn't mean that you're going to get, you could also get, it could increase your risk. Personal history of breast cancer or non-cancerous breast diseases like fibrostic cells. Family history of breast cancer has to be like a strong family. Dense breasts again. And again, your first child after age 30 or no children at all. So those are risk factors that a lot of people probably aren't even aware of. So again, 1 in 8 women, and I think since I started working in nursing in 3 years, I think I have come across 6 nurses. So you're sitting next to 2 breast cancer survivors here, so I can go around the room. 1 in 8, there's 2 of us sitting right here. So it's more prevalent than you would actually realize. This talks about the breast tissue itself, and it's the fat tissue, the lobes, lobules, ducts, and lymph nodes. So where most breast cancer occur is not necessarily in the fat tissue. It mostly occurs in the dense tissue, and it follows along the channels for the lymph nodes, and then it follows out, and it can go up underneath your arm as the lymph nodes go out, and that's metastatic. So, but it all ends up with the nipple. A lot of women who get breast cancer are very upset about losing their nipples. To me, that was probably the hardest point, was lose my nipples. But it's everything, as you can see from the anatomy of the breast, it all goes there. So you're keeping your nipples keeps the increased risk. So when they do a mastectomy, they also often take off all the nipples. So. Stages of breast cancer. So stage 0 is, of course, the stage that you want to have. That's when you can catch it really, really early. And that's usually diagnosed on a mammogram. Stages 1 and 2 are again mammogram or ultrasound if it's a dense breast. So staging of breast cancer, people think, oh my God, I'm stage 4, I'm going to die. The staging doesn't correlate to survival rates. The staging talks about how you're going to treat the breast cancer. So if you have a stage 4 breast cancer, they're going to treat it this way. If you have a stage 2 breast cancer, they're going to treat it this way. Stages 1 and 2, depending if it's localized and it hasn't spread, you're probably going to have a lumpectomy, you're probably going to have radiation. Stages 3 and 4, that's usually going to mean that it's moved outside of the breast tissue, it's come out of the controlled vessel, it's moved into the actual tissue, or it's moved into the lymph node, and you're going to get chemotherapy. And so my stage, and then they break it down even smaller, my stage was 3B. So mine had traveled from my breast up underneath my arm. And so I ended up with the chemotherapy, but I did not have the radiation. Do you have radiation? Mm-hmm. Yes, so she had radiation. So it's just depends. But again, it's very important when someone tells you, oh my God, I have stage 4 breast cancer. It's not a death sentence. That's not determines, it doesn't determine your survival rate, it determines how they treat it. And so they do a lot of research. Each stage says, the person's in this stage, research proves that we should do this, this, or this. Okay, so that's one myth. So these are things to look for. So it's always good to like get out of the shower. So if you can see, I forgot to bring my pointer, but a cough, skin irritation, different size breasts. Most women have different size breasts, but if you look at the woman over the breast on this side, you'll see the nipple is crossed, and then also see that weird little divot at the bottom. Those are things to watch for. Skin dimpling, nipple changes, pain. Breast cancer doesn't really hurt. Mine didn't hurt. Swelling, lumps. Mine was a lump I felt when I was scratching, and different size breasts. Mine were different size to begin with, so it wasn't anything that I would have noticed. I didn't have any nipple discharges. So, but you always, when you're doing your breast cancer, you always want to put your arms up and look at your breasts, because you can see how they droop, and when they natural drooping and you can see like a dimpling or something, or an orange peel, those are things you need to go immediately to your doctor. An important fact is, breast cancer is not a medical emergency. So something that I did not know is when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was like, oh my God, I need to get to the doctor today, I'm gonna die. It's moving all over my body. Not really happening. Breast cancer starts off with one cell. It takes many, many years. I signed up for a research study. My tumor was, I think it was only 1.5, 2 centimeters. It was 9 years and 6 months and 28 days old. So I'd been there for a while. Wow. So I didn't, here I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna die today. Hi, I'm gonna die today, and no, that sucker's been there for a long time. So it takes it a long time to grow. So it's not a medical emergency, but yes, you need to get in to see your doctor right away. So they teach this TLC, touch, look, and check. So nobody knows your body like you do. And so like for me, we had gone on a 100-mile bike ride, because that's like our hobby. And so I'd come home and I was like, oh, I took that sports bar off, and I was like, and I'm like, well, that doesn't feel right. I'm like, get in here, does this feel right? And so, and I felt it, and I was like, and I immediately knew I had breast cancer. I don't know why. I'm in perfect health. I eat right. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I rode my bicycle 7,589 miles, I think, in 1 year. And most people don't put that kind of mileage on a car. I'm like, can't be me, but I don't know, something in my brain just said, this isn't right. And I wasn't even a nurse at the time. So it goes back to self-breast exams. You need to know what's normal for your tissue. Some people have really a lot of lumps and nodules that are just normal, but breast cancer usually feels like it doesn't move. If you have a lump that moves around, that's usually not breast cancer, because the cancer likes to attach to stuff and it likes to stick on. So you really have to be careful, because if it doesn't move, you can't get your finger up underneath it, you can't make it move, more than likely you need to get to the doctor sooner rather than later. But for me, ever since I have breast cancer, I don't let my guard down. I check girls every day, several times a day probably. And before that, unless to wash them, I never really touched them. So you need to not be embarrassed to touch your breasts. You've got to know what's normal for your body. Clinical breast exams, those you really need to have those at least once a year. That's kind of the best way to know, because the clinicians actually know what these things feel for. Mammograms. Mammograms are the only proven gold standard for detecting breast cancer. Mammograms did not detect my breast cancer because I had dense breasts, which is a whole thing about my paper. But you still need to have them. So, and even when we said, here's the tumor, we marked it, we put metal tabs on it, we said, did a mammogram, still couldn't see it. Had to have an ultrasound. But the mammograms are the gold standard. Mammogram worked for you, right? So 2 women, completely different. So if I could say one thing about anybody in this room, check your breast. I'm going to say to you, check your breast and get a mammogram.
How early do you need to do it?
So you need to get them at least by 40. You need to get a baseline by 40.
If your mom had it?
If your mom had it, you need to get it at 35. So if your mother had it, strong family history, you need to get it sooner rather than later. Okay. Self-breast exams, do it once a month. You want to do it, if you're still having your cycle, you want to do it several days after your period, because that's kind of lumpy anyway. If a specific date if you're pregnant or no longer having periods. So like first of the month, or just pick a specific day. Day that you're going to know that you're going to take a bath, or you're going to do a facial and shave your legs and that whole bit. Just try to do it then. And again, this is the most important fact. Don't panic if you find a lump, which nobody told me that. So I was panic mode. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I sat up and I think we did jigsaw puzzles for 4 days straight because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't walk. I couldn't get enough water. I was dehydrated. I thought, oh my God, I'm dying. I've got 4 beautiful grandchildren. That this can't be happening. But only 20% of the people who have a lump turns out to be breast cancer. So 80% of the time, it's not cancer. So don't panic. It's not a medical emergency. However, go to the doctor.